First story. My excuse of a mother who abandoned me and my disabled siblings for her affair while stealing all my money claims she cared for my younger sister, who has no idea what our mom did. So I exposed myself to my sister, so she too cut ties with our mom. Now, our mom goes to Facebook to get sympathy, but is shut down by everyone. I want to preface this with an apology if it's all over the place. There's so much information to sort through and decide what does or doesn't have a place here. I will reply to what I can and make edits for any common questions or remarks. So a little or a lot of background is required for this to make any sense. Many years ago, my mother had an affair that completely blew up our family. I suppose the affair was the lesser issue, but rather all her other actions that screwed many of us over. For context, I was 10, my younger sister was 7 or 8, and my older sister was almost 14, all female. To start with, in the years prior, my mother had taken out tens of thousands of dollars in loans and credit cards in my dad's name, of which he was never aware. Ignorant, absolutely, but she had always managed all finances while a psalm. She also managed to make 5 years of GST payments disappear from the business account, for which Dad was then charged with 2 charges around $100,000 in fines of tax evasion on top of the missed payments. All 3 of us kids had a bank account set up from a young age, which our dad had added to so that we would be in a positive position when we were older for university or a house deposit, whatever it was that we desired. Being saving-oriented even as a kid, I had chosen to put 100% of any money earned through chores or gifted for birthdays into the account. At 14, when I began working and gained access to net banking, I realized Mom had drained my account, less than $50 only my account. If that wasn't enough, her own mother had stored a sum of money in my parents' safe that was intended for her funeral. My mother took every last dollar and refused to pay it back. My dad paid it back with interest when he found out. Due to the tricky financial situation, Dad had to travel for work, wherever the trade was needed at that moment. Typically, he would leave in the early hours of Monday morning and return on Saturday afternoon. At this time, my mother felt it was appropriate to leave us at home so that she could visit the affair partner, usually not coming home for days at a time. Nobody knew we had no caregivers or access to resources, as we lived a 20-minute drive to the nearest town or store. This went on for a few weeks before my mom sometimes contacted our cousin to come stay with us while she was out. To this day, I believe that only happened because the other guy figured out what was going on. Due to the timing of people coming and going, our dad didn't know any of this happened until months later. I kept quiet because I knew he couldn't afford to stay home. All this said, I stepped into the parent role. My little sister was kept in the dark as much as possible, and I did my best to maintain her same routine so that she felt as little impact as possible. Obviously, she suffered, to the point of requesting to sleep in my bed every night for a year. But it seems that she doesn't remember any of the SHTTY things that happened back then. My older sister was very mentally ill, so I had to medicate her each morning and conduct daily body and room checks. Those who know will get what I'm suggesting. To the best of my knowledge, our little sister never saw any of this. I didn't, and I don't believe those are subjects such little eyes should have to witness. The older sister was also really ashamed and has asked to keep this situation away from the youngest, as she had a habit of speaking without realizing or knowing the potential damage. As much as I hated the responsibility of cooking, cleaning, and hiding the family's dirty laundry, I was also very aware that what was happening wasn't okay. If I couldn't keep it together and kept matters hidden, the authorities would become involved. Those times were scary, but the idea of not having access to and control over what happened to me or my siblings felt like it would be worse. These are only the first things that come to mind. But the details aren't exactly the point of this post. Anyway, I guess my younger sisters, soon-to-be-in-laws, have asked some questions, which my sister doesn't have the ability to answer. I would suggest she ask our mother first, but the queries would have been shut down. I know she feels guilty and knows that she screwed up, and frankly, I hope she never forgives herself for it. So, my little sister came to me, and for the first time in 15 years, I was willing to give her the answers she was looking for. I've always been vague, not wanting to cause her pain, but I've started feeling guilty in recent years for not treating her as enough of an adult to make her own decisions. After a lot of therapy, I have realized that I don't have to be their parent anymore. My sister cried, and I cried, and she apologized for assumptions made and words said, because she didn't know any better in the past. She needs and wants time to process a whole lot of information that's entirely new to her, which has quite literally flipped the way she has perceived many people over the years. Anywho, she isn't speaking to our mother right now, and that's where it becomes my problem, I guess. She called me, blowing up, claiming I'd ruined her relationship with her daughter. I'm out to get her, resentful without cause, and need to stop living in the past. But I don't see how being honest about her actions is my fault. Could I have filtered the details? Maybe. But I don't understand why I should have to hold onto the pressure of keeping her shortcomings secret. Maybe it's time to grow up and pay for the consequences of your actions. In the comments. She's never taken any responsibility, only made excuses. My favorite was the one about her leaving us to care for ourselves. You all made it clear you didn't want to spend time with me. I feel like she thought she'd gotten away with it at this point, and that's why she's mad. To be honest, I only told my sister for selfish reasons. We've only recently developed a close relationship, and I didn't want to lose that if she became mad at me for not telling her anything. I know there was always a layer of resentment towards me for thinking I was the boss of her. She needed somebody to be mad at, and at the time, I was okay with that person being me. Children and young adults get mad at the people it is safe to be mad at. It sounds like you took that anger to give her a safe space and a safe person. Now that she's of an age where she is old enough to hear the truth, and where it's safe for her to be angry at your mom without risking breaking your family apart, you've given her the truth. That's quite heroic. I hope you find the peace and space to have a life of your own, free from your mother's negligent abuse. You've certainly more than earned it. OP. I never considered the aspect of somebody needing to be safe to be mad at them. That puts a lot into perspective. Thank you. To be honest, my mother has no influence over my life or feelings. I stopped regarding her as a parental figure long ago, so her opinion of me, someone she really had no part in molding, means nothing. Don't get me wrong. I do not place the blame for all wrongdoings exclusively on her, but she was certainly the catalyst for most of the difficult seasons. Every action or inaction I've ever made has been a decision to protect the other people she hurt, which only served to protect her from backlash, and I think it's time she faced up. In some ways, I think caring for them was all that kept me sane. I was so busy and exhausted by the day-to-day motions that I didn't have time to reflect on my own feelings or the situation as a whole. Full survival mode, I suppose. I appreciate that a lot. I tried my best, in hindsight, to do for them what I probably needed myself. She was cut out for a very long time. The stolen money from myself was the absolute last straw, which resulted in me going without contact for about 5 years. Part of me thinks she was glad for that, too, because I'd threatened to press charges against the mystery thief if she didn't fess up. But because of my sister's age and her eventually choosing to live with my mom, I felt compelled to be civil because I missed her. I live 4 hours from my hometown now, so maintaining a healthy distance is really quite easy. Curious about your dad? How is he doing? After knowing the truth, did your younger sister go live with your dad? And did he divorce your mother? And all that money she stole, what was she doing with that money? Did you get any of your money back? OP. He's doing really well. But of course he had a long time to pick up the pieces. He's in his 50s and still works 6 days a week, not because he needs to, but because he's never known anything else. His parents were immigrants, so it was quite literally bred into him. She's 22 now and lives with her partner. She and Dad never had a strained relationship, but after years of living exclusively with him, they decided to spend the next few years with Mom. There's never any bad blood on either end, as far as she's concerned. They did divorce long ago, and as much as I find it strange, they still have a relatively positive relationship. The money literally, who knows? I never saw a cent return, though. Dad didn't know she stole from me until 6 or 7 years ago. Early on, he was struggling, and I knew he'd try to get the money back if I told him. He knew something had happened for me not to talk to my mother all those years, but I hadn't told him, and she sure wasn't going to. Recently, my husband and I built our first home, and he was insistent on cutting trade swaps to save money, which I strongly feel was his way of repaying her debt to me. He's a great dad. He has his flaws, as every human does, but every step he's taken has been with the intention of his kids not having to want for things as he and his siblings did. I only tolerated her in the past to keep my sister close. I don't trust our mother to not hurt her in the process of getting what she wants. The partner's family isn't stupid, and while they will hand out finances, they will never relinquish control of them. If they suspect somebody of having ill intent, they're cut out of all their lives. Mom's husband does pretty well for himself and pays all their living expenses, but knowing her past will not give her unbridled access, so she has to work to support her spending habit, which is probably where the jealousy comes in. I used to tell my sister that I don't really know, can't remember, or have only heard snippets of the story, which is not necessarily a lie but definitely deceit by omission. First update. And now she's resorted to posting on Facebook, claiming that one of her ingrates is spreading rumors to ruin her. I don't even have Facebook, so I'm not really sure what she's trying to achieve by doing this. But an old family friend called my dad to ask what's going on. Also, I'm speaking to nobody about the situation. I don't even live in our hometown. If not, then she has nothing for me to ruin. There's no way I'm engaging or sinking to the level, but seriously, what a waste of a person. Now the parents are fighting. She's fighting with her husband, and SHD is all around, just getting messy. She thinks she's making people feel sorry for her, but mostly she just looks pathetic, if you ask me. Update 2. It turns out I really don't need to sink to her level. That's been taken care of while I sleep. I guess mom's privacy settings aren't great, and that's working against her. The vague, "woe is me" post has been shared by 3 family members or friends with a single, but far less cryptic, one-liner. I'm told, "Oh, you mean the ingrate that raised your kids? Should she be more grateful for your affair or the complete and utter abandonment of your 3 kids, and my absolute favorite for my grandmother? Rot in hell, you lying, thieving bee." Second story. My wife's abusive ex died. He left his 5-year-old son alone. His biological mother is still alive, but she is a sex offender. How can I adopt him, convincing my wife, so he can escape foster care? So yeah, basically what it says on the tin. My wife, Kara, used to be married to a guy with whom she had 1 child, my stepdaughter Charlotte 9. I've always wanted to be a dad, but I'm unfortunately unable to have kids biologically. So I've been treating Charlotte like my own daughter and showering her with love. After Kara and her ex broke up, he had his son Levi 5 with another woman. Levi is not an affair baby. Kara's ex didn't even start seeing Levi's mom until a year after he and Kara got divorced. Last week, Kara's ex passed away in a car wreck. From what I know, Levi's mom won't take him in, and Kara's ex has no close family who will take him in. Levi is currently staying in a foster home, and if no one steps up, Levi will become a ward of the state and enter our state's awful foster system permanently. The other thing is that Charlotte loves her little brother so much, and obviously she's devastated about her dad. I think that staying connected with her brother will help Charlotte through the grief, and that staying with his sister will help Levi. The thing is, Kara absolutely loathes her ex. Their split up was on pretty much the worst of terms, and their divorce was the messiest I've ever heard of. She once told me that if it wasn't for Charlotte, she would have moved across the country and never thought about him again. I'm worried that she won't want to take in Levi because of his connection to her ex. I don't know if I should talk to Kara about potentially stepping up to take Levi in, or if she might be gravely insulted if I brought this up. I know that Levi's not technically mine or Kara's problem, but he's an innocent child and Charlotte's little brother, and I would feel guilty if I didn't even try to take him in. Edit, since a lot of people have been asking. The reason that Levi's mom can't and won't take him is because she lost custody a while ago and has no interest in fighting to get it back. I don't know why she lost custody, but I believe that she's on the sex offender registry for something quite serious. Relevant comments. Fox 112. Well, dude, she is your wife. We're just random strangers on the internet, and this is a seriously large decision. I would recommend just talking to her about it and seeing how she feels. Are you even able to take the child? OP. Well, I've never been in my wife's position, and I was thinking maybe someone with more experience could give me advice. I love my wife, but she can be a bit, let's say, volatile when it comes to anything involving her ex. And yes, we are able to take the kid in well, financially at least. Comfortable search 704. Info needed. Did Kara have much contact with Levi prior to the accident? If she did, that might make it a little bit easier, but you also do need to go with that. It's Charlotte's brother. Just think about how you will put this together, and start by admitting to her that she may or may not like the idea. But there is the possibility that she's trying to figure out how to bring it up to you. So think of it as making it easier for her to say what she wants. I think you are going to do okay. OP. No, she purposely didn't form a relationship with him, so she'd have fewer attachments to her ex. I actually saw the kid more often than my wife, because I handle most of the childcare stuff with my stepdaughter, which included pickup and drop-off from visits with her dad. Charlie Chuck. I'm curious what your relationship was like with your wife's ex. It seems like you and him had a better relationship than your wife and him. I'm not saying you guys were buddies. OP. He and I were cordial. But if I'm being frank, he was a massive Dutchebag. My wife and I would rock, paper, scissors, sometimes to see who would have to deal with him. No glove 1 Team 5 and 75. Do you think your wife will be able to be a loving parent to Levy the same way she is with Charlotte? Physically taking him in is only the beginning of the journey. OP. Knowing my wife, yes, I think she would. She may hate the idea or she may not. But I don't think she's physically capable of hating a little kid once she gets to know him. That's why she avoided forming a relationship with her ex's kid. I think she didn't want to get too attached to someone adjacent to her ex. But that's just my speculation, of course. Camilla Riberas. What did the ex do for Kara to divorce him? Damn man, answer. OP, the better question is, what didn't he do? And is a man not allowed to sleep? He cheated, lied, and gaslit her. They had screaming matches, and during the divorce, he tried to keep my stepdaughter away from her. He made things up about her in court to try to serve this end. The only thing he ever did was hit her. Update. So, after reading through as many comments as I could, I was even more nervous than ever about talking to my wife. I was also even more convinced that this was a conversation I needed to have sooner rather than later. I also tried to get more information about Levy's situation and why no one could take him from my wife. And according to Kara, Levy's mom emigrated from another country and doesn't have any family here. One of her ex's parents is in elderly care, and the other is unwilling for some reason. As for the rest of his extended family, I don't know, and neither does she. But she did say that he's had no contact with most of his family and has been disowned by a fair number of them. Someone may reach out in the future, but it seems unlikely. Last night, Charlotte was over at her friend's house for a sleepover, so Kara and I had dinner alone together. I started by bringing up how lonely I thought Charlotte was and how glad I was that she was feeling well enough to go over to her friend's house. Kara agreed, and I basically got straight to the point by saying how I thought that she'd feel better if she could spend time with her brother, and asked if she might consider taking on Levy as a kinship foster. Kara looked thoughtful for a minute before tentatively agreeing. We're going to be taking steps to see about taking him in and, at the very least, setting up visits so that the siblings can see each other. This is a huge weight off my shoulders, knowing that she doesn't resent a little kid for her relationship with his father, and that she was able to have a rational conversation regarding a topic related to her ex. The last time we had a conversation about him, I'd accidentally used a phrase that her ex used a lot during their fights, and she got triggered by it. She ended up storming out and staying at a hotel for the night so that she could calm down. She's a lovely woman. I know it might not seem like that from my posts, but she really is. She had a really toxic and borderline abusive relationship that almost resulted in her losing access to her daughter. So I hope that y'all don't think of her as a monster, but as a loving wife and mother with some trauma that she's trying her damnedest to work through with the support of her therapist and myself. Relevant comments. Cooler than unicorns. I'm so happy about this outcome. Your wife seems like a lovely woman. OP, I know, right? I'm so thrilled. My jaw hurts from smiling so much. Odoritz Richard EI. I'm glad Reddit didn't talk you out of this. There were so many negative and pessimistic comments that I was worried that you were going to abandon the idea. OP, no one short of my wife herself would convince me not to. He's an innocent child who needs someone to love him. If anything, Reddit made me more determined to try. If I chickened out and never brought it up, everyone calling me a saint completely undeserved. But that's besides the point, would be disappointed in me along with myself. Third story. My housemate, who is acting like he is straight, hooked up with me and is now bullying me after I had a bad experience. So I shifted rooms, and now he tried to saw me. I'm 18 years old, and I'm a university student in the UK. I live in student accommodation, and 8 of us share a flat. 5 girls and 3 boys. I get along with everyone, usually. I'm gay, which everyone knows. It's never been an issue at the university before now. One of my housemates, Pete, is 23. We're in the same year at university. But he didn't start right away after school. We always got along okay, but he's not someone I'd normally be friends with. He's a stereotypical rugby lad from a rich family, basically. He's always seemed very straight, and he can be a bit homophobic, but he says it's a joke. A few weekends ago, I went out with most of my housemates, but I didn't get into the club we were going to because the doorman thought I was too drunk. I don't actually think I was that bad, and I wasn't blacked out or anything, but I decided to just go home. Pete said he'd go with me, which I found strange because he's not normally considerate. When we got back, we stayed up for a bit, and he ended up kissing me and wanting to have sex, which was totally out of the blue, as I thought he was straight. It was definitely him that started it, and he was coming on quite strongly, but I did fully consent to it, to be clear. I wish I hadn't, though, because it was a bad experience. I'm not very experienced, And I don't usually hook up, I would rather be in a relationship. I'm also not really attracted to him. I just liked him as a friend. The sex was really bad. He was too rough, and at one point, it hurt so much that I seriously felt like passing out. He didn't hurt me on purpose. He just didn't know what he was doing, and he didn't listen when I told him. It was still bad, though, and I regretted it. Right after, he said not to tell anyone, which was fine with me. I thought we'd pretend it didn't happen, but since then, he's been really mean to me. He's rude and makes horrible jokes about me, and then he says he's just messing around. He always did this, but it's 10 times worse now. He also keeps doing really hurtful pranks. For example, we each have a post tray, and he keeps filling mine with leaflets about STI clinics, and things like that, so it looks like I ordered them. I was cooking a frozen meal in the oven and went back to my room, and he took it out of the oven and put it back in right at the end of the cooking time. So when I took it out, it was still fully frozen and needed around another 40 minutes. I know that doesn't sound like a big deal, but I'm type 1 diabetic and meal times are important. I didn't have anything else to eat and I felt very ill. He sent a video to another housemate of him messing around with my toothbrush and putting it down the back of his jeans like he was rubbing it on his arse. I don't know if he actually did it, and the other housemate told me, but it's still gross. There's other stuff, too. He also tried to kiss me again one other time when he was drunk. But I told him to F off, and I locked myself in my room, and he didn't mention it again. It might sound dramatic, but I don't feel safe in the flat anymore, and I dread seeing him because he's always so rude to me. I tried asking him why he was doing this, but he said I was imagining it, I was pathetic, and I needed to get over it. I think he's worried. I have feelings for him, but I really don't. I wasn't attracted to him even before all this happened, and I'm definitely not now. Other people are starting to notice what he's doing and asking me why, and I don't know what to say. I know he doesn't want me to tell anyone, and I don't want to either. I actually feel quite ashamed that it happened. I don't know if he's being horrible because he's worried I won't tell, but I really won't. I don't know what to do. Maybe he'll ease off if I give it time, but I don't know. I'm quite miserable in the flat now, but I don't have anywhere else to go. I don't get along with my family, and I don't have much money. I don't really want to move out because I was actually happy here before this. I don't feel like I can talk to anyone because they might find out what happened. I tried talking to Pete directly, but it didn't work. What do I do? TLDR. I slept with my straight housemate, and now he's bullying me, and I don't know what to do. Update. At first, I didn't want to move out, but I got a lot of helpful advice, and I realized that I'm miserable and I don't feel safe where I am now, so I would probably be happier if I did move somewhere new. I have been emailing the accommodation managers, and it looks like it should be possible. I didn't tell them exactly what happened, but luckily someone else might want to move. I booked an appointment with the University Wellbeing Service to talk things over, but that won't be for a while yet. I think it could be helpful because I haven't been doing great since all this happened. I ended up talking to Pete, even though I planned to avoid him. A little while after I made my first post, I got a message from one of my housemates asking what was going on with Pete and asking if something had happened between us. I didn't know how to reply to that, so I ended up sending him the message they sent, and I said, I promise, I have no intention of telling anyone what happened, but people are noticing you're acting differently with me. You might not care how you're affecting me, but I'm guessing you'd rather avoid these types of questions, so I'm asking you to please just leave me alone. He didn't reply, but later in the evening, he was knocking on my door, wanting to talk. I told him I didn't want to, but he wouldn't leave me alone, and I gave in. He said he knew he was being a DK, but he was confused by what happened because it was the first time he ever did that with a guy, and he was insecure about it. He didn't apologize. I said that I was confused by it too, and it was the first time I ever did that with anyone, and I didn't react the way he did, so I didn't think it was an excuse. He got pissed off, and he said I just didn't get it. Then he tried to kiss me again, and he was quite angry and aggressive. I kicked him out of my room and told him very clearly that I just wanted him to leave me alone. I told him I would be polite, but I don't want to be friends or anything like that, and I'm trying to move out as soon as possible. Now I'm back to being shut in my room until I'm able to move. I didn't tell anyone exactly what happened, but my other housemates know I'm trying to move and that he's being an arsehole. He hasn't done anything or said anything to me since our conversation, so I really hope he just leaves me alone now. Thank you for watching the video. If you are interested in listening to these kinds of stories, we've got more in store for you. Simply subscribe to our channel, hit the like button, and share it with your friends.